Wanna see hell? Well, here you go!
Hey everyone and welcome back. Just as a heads up, this video isn't so much of a review of Hunter x Hunter as a whole, but more of a look at the villains themselves. I plan on covering one of the villains, and if you enjoy this one, I'd love to continue to cover more. With that being said, there will be spoilers ahead.
So, let's get down to business.
Sure.
The amount of love that I have for this series is borderline immeasurable. I can confidently say that coming from someone who thought this anime looked pretty generic, I was dead-ass wrong. One of the many things that caught my eye were the villains, and how they weren't just your run-of-the-mill bad guys. So I plan on diving headfirst into my favorite villain, Meruem. If you're watching this, odds are you know how the Chimera ants came to be. Consuming humans seemed to be of a great benefit to the ants, as the queen started to reproduce some of the strongest ants we know of. Not only were they more capable of human thoughts, but some of them could even see or use Nen. Once King Meruem was born, we saw a devastatingly powerful being come into play. He's ruthless, heartless, hyper-intelligent, and strong. He's instantly hateable and terrifying at the same time. You really can't empathize with him, but then he says something that really makes you think.
やはりアホだぞこいつら。お前ら豚や牛の命乞いに耳を貸したことがあるか?
From his perspective, is he wrong? Do humans slaughter those who didn't deserve it just like the Chimera ants did, and humans just normalize it because it's what we've done for millions of years? Ugh, get out of my head, Meruem. We watched him devour a child and throw his own dying mother to the side. There's nothing good that can come of him, right? Anyway, he eventually needs more stimulation as his royal guards set up the groundwork to attempt to transform 5 million people into a massive ant army. He finds some of the world champions of several different types of strategic board games to play with, but he usually ends up beating them after about 10 or so rounds of the game. That is, until he's introduced to someone who can finally beat him in a match of a game called Gungi. Komagi is nothing to be impressed by. She's blind, clumsy, and seems, well, a little simple-minded. So what can she offer to Meruem, and how on earth was she a world champion of a deeply complex strategic board game? Komagi then spends the following days beating Meruem match after match. Meruem starts to exhibit actions that aren't really like him when he's around her. Things such as making sure she gets proper sleep, having the royal guards look after her when needed, and finding himself constantly thinking of her. At first you think it's because he's irritated with the fact that he can't win, but it turns into something so much more than that, and even someone as brilliant as himself doesn't see it at first. He doesn't know it yet, but he's started to care for her. Meruem isn't just hyper-intelligent with acts of war or great violence. You watch him slowly struggle with his newfound feelings and what they mean. Why does he yearn to protect her and see her each day? He went from thinking humans were just his daily meal to, well, maybe more than just that. At one point, Komagi is attacked by a bird but doesn't cry out. Meruem was already on his way to kill her to prove that he doesn't need her, but then he witnesses what's going on and destroys the bird in an instant, and you can just see it written all over his face. He cares for her, but he still doesn't understand why. You watch him now put world domination to the side as he gets more engrossed with Komagi. It's like a switch flicked on for him, and you see him discover his humanity step by step, just like we did as we age and experience things. One would think this wouldn't be the case, but we watched him earlier be completely disgusted by humans and how they would allow someone to take over a country due to their bloodline while the poor would starve and rulers would never know the meaning of the word. It's almost as if he discovered how monstrous humans can be and he was ready to fix it. Komagi allows him to see that humans aren't just selfish, egotistical brats. They're much deeper than that once you start to peel away the layers. As the story progresses, Meruem finds himself in a fight to the death with Netero, the chairman of the Hunters Association. Once Netero activates 99th Hand and assaults Meruem with a barrage of palm strikes, Meruem finds himself building up a respect and warm approval of the man in front of him. However, this doesn't dull the fight, and Netero continues his devastating attacks until Meruem finally decides, well, it's time to do some damage by ripping off his leg. Meruem then tells him the battle is over and to admit defeat, but Netero won't back down and clenches the muscles around the remaining part of his leg to cut off all bleeding, which I'm not even gonna talk about that, but holy crap. Anyway, Meruem finds himself in yet another state of respect for the man in front of him, but will claim yet another limb anyway because he wants to end this. Throughout the fight, you see Meruem act and respond in a way that he would not have when he was first born. So why is this so interesting for a villain? He no longer seems to be that ruthless, soulless being, and he's now eager to know more about these creatures he once thought he was nothing like. It shows us that he's capable of leveling up his emotional intelligence, even if that means putting his once prideful thoughts and processes to the side. Meruem is becoming more of a fleshed out, enriching character, and at times I almost forget he's the villain. Most of us spend decades to discover and change our emotional responses, and it's something we're forever evolving, but Meruem is absorbing the world around him at an incredible speed. He's learning and adapting in most ways that we wish we could in a lifetime. There are points in this arc where I actually find myself sympathizing with him and wishing that Netero would just sit down and talk with him. Would the outcome of the story have differed this late in the game? Would Meruem have changed even after seeing more humans like Netero? Maybe the Chimera Ants just didn't have enough time to evolve and see what this world really had to offer. What if they would have had a more empathetic leader to start? I know I can't get stuck in the rabbit hole of what ifs, but it's hard, okay? Meruem was just discovering his humanity, and I just keep screaming to myself, was it fair that we had to lose him? Was the lesson enough? Did Meruem deserve redemption, or were his sins deep enough to warrant his ultimate death? It's hard to say because it's easy to judge and never truly know how another feels. His death is hard for me to talk about, to be honest. There was so much emotional buildup to that scene, and Togashi, he wrote it perfectly. It was the ending of a villain that I never knew I needed. That moment was so raw that it didn't even need music playing in the background to make you feel what Togashi was trying to convey. Each scene and transition was perfectly placed, alongside incredible voice acting that just made you feel like you were there. There to experience the scene where Komagi held his hand as she spoke his name one last time as he closed his eyes. Desperation was not expressed in the traditional sense of begging for more time, but with him calling out to her to make sure she was still by his side, and playing one more game with him while he slowly declined. And then she said they would be together forever as Meruem faded away and she would soon join him. Man, that really messes me up every time. I rewatched it to write this, and I hope everyone is happy because I'm over here blubbering like a dingus. So, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, those last few moments made me realize, had the world had more time with him, maybe things would have been different. Did Meruem redeem himself with his love and admiration for Komagi? Is redemption something he can give himself just like forgiveness? Or does it need to be given to the people he's hurt? I guess that's up to the viewer to decide, and it reminded me that we all have the ability to change or become the person we've always dreamed of becoming. We aren't destined to be the same person we were when we were 15, 20, 35, or even 55. If we have the courage and the will, we can change too. Meruem will never be a typical villain for me, and I love how he was written from start to finish. He went from being a bad guy to a relatable guy right under our nose, and how can you not truly love and respect that? As my main man would say,
Love and pizza!
hey everyone, thanks for giving this a good old-fashioned watch. I'm not sure if I got my point across or if I just incoherently rambled on about evil dudes slightly redeeming themselves, but here we are. If you want to see more, let me know in the comments or on Twitter. I hope you all have a rad day, and I'll catch you on the flip side.